Enlighten us, please. What states will not treat an ectopic pregnancy? Oh my god, thank you for asking. I'd love to tell you. First, we'll talk about a situation involving an ectopic pregnancy. Then we'll throw in some stories about miscarriages that hospitals refuse to treat, okay? In February of this year, a 25-year-old pregnant woman named Kelsey Norris de la Cruz went to the hospital with her mother. She was not seeking an abortion. When an ultrasound was done, Kelsey found out that her pregnancy was ectopic. Now, when my ectopic pregnancy was discovered, they immediately sent me to a nearby hospital where I was fast-tracked into emergency surgery so that the ruptured embryo could be removed. Unfortunately, Kelsey was not so lucky. Instead of immediately removing the embryo that was endangering her life, the doctors told her to go home and wait because it might be viable. Ectopic pregnancies, by the way, are never viable. And what was Kelsey waiting for? I assume for it to rupture her fallopian tube or wherever else it had gotten stuck. Now, my rupture was barely noticeable, which is an anomaly. Most people whose pregnancies rupture are in so much pain that they pass out. Luckily, Kelsey decided to go to a different hospital the next day, and what do you know? She was given emergency surgery to remove the embryo because it was not viable. The surgeon who performed the operation told the Washington Post that if Kelsey had waited any longer, she would probably have lost her life. After this tragedy, 4 OBGYNs looked over Kelsey's medical papers from that procedure, and each of them said that she should have been given immediate surgery. But no one turns away ectopic cases, right? Back in September, I believe, a pregnant woman and her hospital arrived to the Sacred Heart 24-hour emergency center in Texas. The woman was bleeding a lot and asked the medical staff for help. Unfortunately for the woman, her husband, and the fetus, they were on Medicare, which in most places means you're treated like absolute shit. It also sounds like this couple's native language was Spanish. I assume this would have prompted some of the nurses to experience a little racism. So the ER refused to check this woman in. This is against federal law. ERs are required to stabilize patients who are in active labor. Then, once the patient is stabilized, they can be sent to another facility. But the staff at Sacred Heart refused to help the woman in any way. So the pregnant woman, still bleeding, went into the bathroom in the lobby of the ER, where she proceeded to miscarry. The husband tried to get help from the emergency staff once he found out that his wife had miscarried, but they refused. So he called 911 while in an ER. He said, "I'm here at the hospital, but they told us they can't help us because we're not their client." The emergency crews took 20 minutes to get there, and when they arrived, they asked the staff to brief the EMTs on what the fuck was going on. And the ER staff said, "We can't tell you. She's not our patient. That's why you're here." As I said, state and federal laws require ERs and hospitals to stabilize a patient, whether or not they can afford to be treated. Only then can the staff shove the patient out the door and tell them to go elsewhere. So this woman was taken to another hospital for treatment, but her baby was dead by then. Instead of apologizing for traumatizing this couple, Sacred Heart decided to stop taking Medicare, which means that they don't have to help people in those situations. How loving and pro-life of them. Some more examples of pro-life treatment of pregnant women. A woman in Florida went to her local hospital because she was concerned about her pregnancy. A security guard told her she couldn't come into the hospital because she had a non-fetus child with her as well. He told her to go home, so she did. The next day, she returned to the hospital only to find out that the fetus had died. In North Carolina, the hospital refused a pregnant woman an ultrasound because she was concerned about her pregnancy. She ended up giving birth in her car in their parking lot, and her baby died. What if that baby could have cured cancer? Another pregnant woman in North Carolina went to the hospital because she was having stomach pains. She was refused an ultrasound and told to leave. On the way to another hospital 45 minutes away, the woman gave birth in her car. And most recently, the state of Idaho decided that even if a pregnant person is going through a medical emergency, they don't have to help them. Oh my god, so pro-life. Now remember earlier when I said that hospitals and ERs are required to treat people even if they can't pay? That would be the pro-life thing to do, right? Because we care about the children. Well, this law is called the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, or Mtala. Well, just last week, the Supreme Court started hearing arguments that will allow hospitals and ERs to turn away pregnant patients even if they are actively experiencing life-threatening issues with their pregnancy or labor. And I believe this trial was kickstarted because of that Idaho law that said exactly that. I love our pro-life country, don't you?